Good morning, everyone. There's an old adage that says, don't judge another person until you've walked in their shoes. And if you think about that, there's a two-step process. The first step is you have to get out of your own shoes. And then you can put on someone else's shoes. But in this week's Torah Portion, we have the story of Yosef accusing the brothers of being spies. And he says, where's this 11th brother you talk about, Benjamin? So they say he's at home with his father. His father, Jacob, already lost one son, Joseph. And it's his only son. He didn't let him come with us on this trip. So he takes Shimon as a prisoner. And he says, I will not release Shimon until you go home, bring back Benjamin, and prove to me that you're telling me the truth. So they go home and they have to tell their father that this Meshuggah viceroy of Egypt has this crazy lunatic idea that we're spies. And in order to prove it, we have to bring Benjamin. And Jacob says, no way am I letting Benjamin go to Egypt. I already lost Joseph, the only other son from the mother, Rachel. I can't fear to lose my second child from Rachel. But as the food runs out, they're getting desperate. So they plead with their father, please allow us to take Benjamin. So at that point, Reuben, the oldest son, steps up. And Reuben says, look, I guarantee that Benjamin will come home safe. Dad, I personally guarantee it. And he says, if I don't bring back Benjamin, listen to these words because they're pretty shocking. Eshnei banai tamis. You could murder my two sons. Why is he saying that? Because if you lose Benjamin, that means you would have lost two sons. So as punishment for me not bringing back Benjamin safely, you, grandpa, could kill two of your grandchildren. Very shocking. But he's trying to say, like, on my life. You ever hear that expression? On my children's life. You could kill my two kids. And Jacob says, I'm not letting Benjamin go. He's not ready to give over Benjamin. But as things continue, Judah steps forward. And Judah says, Dad, let me take responsibility. And he says the following words, Anochi arvenu miyadi tevakshenu. I will take responsibility. From my hand you will seek him in return. And if I do not bring him back, I will have sinned to my father all the days of my life. And when Jacob hears this, he says, fine, if you're going to take responsibility and I will seek him from your hand, and you will have sinned to me all my life if I don't return him, you could have Benjamin. And he goes down to Egypt with Judah. So the question is, two people step forward, Reuben and Judah. Reuben says, my two sons' lives I'm putting on as collateral. And Yaakov's not impressed. And Judah just comes along and says, I take responsibility. I'm personally reliable. From my hand you will seek him. Why was Judah's pledge more convincing, more influencing on Yaakov than Reuben? Reuben put up his two kids' lives. So there's many ways to approach this, obviously. But one interesting perspective is as follows. You see, when Yehuda said, I take responsibility to make sure you don't lose your second son, Yaakov accepted that. You know why? Because in last week's Torah portion, what did we learn? Yehuda had three sons with the story of Tamar. He lost his first son, Er. He lost his second son, Onan. And then the whole story with Tamar and Shelah. So when Reuben steps in and says, you could kill my two sons, Yaakov says, you don't even know what you're talking about. You know what it means to lose two sons? That you could even talk that way and say, you could kill my two sons? He dismisses him. Judah steps forward and says, Dad, I know the pain and the grief of a father who lost two sons. I lost two sons. I'm talking from experience. And therefore I'm telling you, I will never let that happen to you. And I take responsibility. And when Yaakov hears that, he says, him I could trust. Because he will make sure Benjamin comes home. Because he knows the pain of losing two sons. And that's the difference between sympathy and empathy. Sympathy is I feel bad for you. Empathy is I could feel what you're experiencing. And I feel your pain. I was thinking about this Vartorah because we had Miriam Peretz with us this Shabbat. She actually lost two sons. She could talk to us for 100 hours about the pain of a mother losing two sons. We still won't understand it. Thank God, because we didn't have that tragic experience. Only someone who went through something like that could relate to what that really means in the heart and the soul of a person who has to live with that kind of pain. But what it teaches us is that often we don't spend enough time getting into other people's shoes. Even if we haven't had someone else's experience, with a little more thought and concentration, we could try to empathize with them and really understand what they're going through. In Yiddish there's a word, mitgefühl. Mitgefühl means I feel alongside of you. I don't just sympathize, I feel with you. And they tell a story about a a mother had a problem with her son. He was eating way too much candy. So she took him to the rabbi and said, Rabbi, please talk to my son. Tell him how the candy isn't good for him, it's not healthy, he should cut down on his candy. There's a little kid, a 5-year-old kid. So the rabbi says, come back in a month from now and I'll talk to him. Okay, she comes back a month later. The rabbi has a whole talk with the son about how candy is not good for him. So the mother says after me, Rabbi, why couldn't you tell him this a month ago? Why did you have to tell me to come back in a month? So the rabbi said, first I wanted to stop eating sugar and candy for a month. And then after I have not had sweet candy and sugar for a month, now I could talk to him because I understand what it means for him to give up candy. And that's the way we're really supposed to speak to people. We try to be in their situation, to understand what it's like before we criticize or judge people or rebuke people. And that's what it says in Pirkei Avot, Al tadanet chavercha, don't judge another person, till you at least come into their place, into their position. At least you should understand what they're dealing with, and then you could talk from your heart.